everybody. Welcome to the 5 in. LB, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that's a bad way. I should think of something new to say than how
You
you
got to.
Yeah.
Because none of us are actually doing okay.
No, nobody's doing okay.
Nobody's doing great
We're all doing
at
the opposite of
all.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good not a good one. But we're here and we're going to talk about all of that stuff because I think it's stuff that we need to talk about, you know.
I do too.
It's very hot where you are, apparently. It's hot in California.
A little hot.
Now.
It's a little
it's hot and sticky in California.
Yeah.
It's a little muggy here. It's a little bit muggy here on the East Coast. It's a little bit muggy up in Massachusetts, where our guest is from. I'm not going to say who our guest is, but we're very excited to have her. And clever people watching my bookcase behind me might be able to figure it out based on the placement of certain objects.
They might need their glasses.
Yeah,
I need my glasses.
They might need.
There we go. Mine reflect all that.
What are you drinking? We should say everyone's drinking tonight for certainly.
I actually am having a drink tonight. I haven't had a drink in a while, frankly. I'm having beautiful tequila, pomegranate juice, squeeze of some gorgeous California lemon, lots of ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am also having tequila.
Oh, wow. You never have tequila, and it's in a mason jar. This is exciting.
Yeah, I couldn't get it to work right. We have bad ice. I haven't bought ice in a while. I get like the bags of ice, and it was the end of the bag, so I had to take the ice and put it on a towel and hit it with a hammer to get it to break apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that though. That's my favorite.
Wasn't as satisfying.
You didn't Sharon Stone that.
No, I did not. I don't have an ice. I know. No, I'd be afraid I'd hurt myself because I would hurt myself.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't. No. It's better to hammer is better. You know, hammer is better. Okay, so we have our 5 topics, and as the format of the show goes,
let me get my timer going.
8 minutes each, and I think on this kind of miserable week, I think we should just sort of launch right in.
Sounds good.
Okay. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Go. You're on the clock.
Yeah, I think it's been very, very encouraging to watch. And again, I always look for signs of hopefulness. It really has been encouraging to watch how people have responded to this school shooting, this horrible carnage, slaughter on both sides. I think it's been really heartening. I was watching the basketball playoff game, and they showed the intro, which they don't usually do, and they had the moment of silence, and I was sort of my wife happened to be watching with me. She usually doesn't care about that, and I was like, okay, the moment of silence, and then they said, call Congress and demand gun reform, and they gave the number, and they gave the voting thing, and everybody cheered in the audience. And this was in Florida. This was at the Miami Heat game. The Heat are owned by Mickey Arison, and these are billionaire guys who own these NBA teams. The NBA is it's the most liberal of the sports leagues, but it's still a bunch of billionaires that own these teams.
Yeah, and
they all had to sign off on it.
Yeah,
they had to all sign off on it. It's really important. And then the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays tweeted about it for all day the next day on their Twitter feeds.
That's right.
That to me, stunning, right?
Let's give people that context too. Instead of tweeting out what was happening in the game, they were tweeting out gun violence statistics and how it's affecting who it's killing, how it's killing them, everything we know, because we actually don't know enough. There hasn't been formal studies that will resonate enough that will give us actually as much information as we need health-wise. But they did what is available. They did what they could. And it was, I was retweeting that like crazy. We need our cultural leaders to lead in this moment as well.
Yeah. I tweeted it as soon as it happened in the NBA game. I realized that most people on my Twitter feed would not be watching the game.
Yeah.
And I tweeted it out. It may be the most popular tweet I've ever done, which is also encouraging. And, the Beto thing, obviously. But what I really want to talk about up top is the response that these idiot Republicans give. That they're blaming everything. They're blaming doors, and they're blaming mental health, and they're blaming maybe if the schools were more secure. It's like, their greatest hits. It's like they're on fucking Wheel of Fortune, spinning this wheel, and whatever dipshit excuse they can come up with that isn't guns, they have to run with it. And people have been calling them out, and it's glorious, because here's the truth. And this is the piece that I think needs to change. The truth is the Republicans want this. Republicans in Congress want it. They want school shootings. They want dead kids. Because if they didn't want it, they would have stopped it by now. 50 senators have the power to stop this, and they have chosen not to do it. So, first of all, anything that they say is bullshit. Beyond hopes and thoughts and prayers, we know that's bullshit. Now it's blaming mental health. That's bullshit. Where's the funding for mental health then, Republicans? Oh, right. They're not going to fund anything. The single door entry thing, bullshit. People are calling them out on the bullshit, but we have to go a step further and say, you want this. You want it. You want it to happen, because if you didn't want it to happen, you would have stopped it by now. So what are you getting out of it?
Right.
What is
That's the question.
The slaughter of children.
That's the question.
What is worth the legalization of these weapons of war that 90-something% of Americans do not want in our streets? What's worth it to you to have to do this every once in a while? I mean, I don't even think Ted Cruz enjoys this, right? So what are you getting out of it? What is it? And I don't know the answer. Is it just that they want power and money? Do they want us to turn into some Russia-like oligarchy? Do they want martial law to be imposed? I don't know the answer, but we have to ask that. What do you get out of this? What's worth these kids' lives? These elementary school kids? What's worth every kid in this country has to do these gun drills? And we've normalized it to the point where it's like, oh yeah, whatever. One of my kids came up. Yeah, we had a drill. I had to sit next to this horrible person. Like, they don't even think about it anymore. It's madness that we have to do this. And these assholes, Greg Abbott, you evil fucker, talking about doors. Come on. Nobody believes you. It's just a bunch of horse shit. We all know it. And this NRA convention, I was shocked that Wayne LaPierre is still there. Didn't he take money from the NRA?
I thought he was a convicted criminal.
He took money from the group. You're still listening to this fucking con man?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you people? Jesus, wake up. I understand why these Republicans do it, I guess. But the people that are going to the convention, don't you realize it's a grift, guys? Jesus Christ. Dumbasses.
Well, so there's a lot in there. So the secondary gain, I think, is the thing. I think to name it as you want this because you're getting something out of it, or you would stop it, and then to press that further, what is it you're actually getting out of this? I think the answer that everyone goes to is, because they're in the pocket of the NRA. Their NRA gives them money. I actually think all of these people could refuse NRA money, and they would still toe this line, because culturally it has been fused with their understanding of how they get elected. It's to trot out this, so the Second Amendment garbage, right? That has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It doesn't, you can't get into a logical argument even on the Constitution and what the Second Amendment is about and what it means and what a well-regulated militia means. And you can't get into that with them because it's a cognitive thing. It's like, no, we've bought this line. We bought into this line of traffic. It's like they turned into the traffic lane of, we're going to protect the Second Amendment. What did Greg Abbott say? It's a Second Amendment sanctuary state now, Texas, right? He's so proud. He was so proud of that. And we have to have that. Like, that's the lane. And so all of the garbage, all of the semantics comes with that lane. And it's progressing because they're reaching and grabbing for anything. Feral pigs, we have to have assault weapons because, feral pigs might show up. A senator actually said that yesterday. So I do think it's to a point too where I think that they would, and we'll talk about this later, I think they might start screaming the way people like me, who are family survivors of gun violence, of losing a loved one to gun violence, the way we scream, the way that people heard those parents scream. It's a very specific scream because it's coming from your brain and your heart at the same time. It's just coming from a reality that you can't accept is actually real. So I do think that there's Jimmy Kimmel sort of hit on it really beautifully of like, it takes a lot to admit you were wrong, to just go, you know what, we were wrong about this. And the cost is now clear. And we do need to engage and do something differently. So I don't know. I want to be hopeful on the end of David Hogg. I'm really listening to the kids that have grown into adults now that are leading the way on this. I'm listening to my friend Fred Gutenberg, who, is just this extraordinary man. But I'm not listening to Schumer. I'm not listening to everybody who took off for a 2-week vacation. I don't get a vacation. Do you get a vacation like this? What the fuck is this fucking vacation? They're off on vacation in the most critical time. All right. I turned my volume down. That was the timer.
Okay,
right,
that was the timer. The vacation thing is so ridiculous. It's like there's a scene in Naked Gun where they're like, not a single man is going to rest for 1 minute until the killer is found, and now we have to go get lunch. It's like that. It's like it's preposterous that they would go on vacation now.
I know.
Preposterous. But I'm sure they're working hard.
They're working hard, so hard.
Oh no, didn't they have to do the emergency thing where they protected the Supreme Court justices' houses?
No, make sure that the wives that actually plotted the insurrection were not uncomfortable with protesters who were having s'mores. I mean, what were they eating? Cheese plates and key lime pie and putting chalk on the sidewalk, and police had to be called for all of that, and laws had to be, emergency sessions in the Senate for kids that were showing up, but not for the bloodbath. Not for their blood.
I think we need to pass the baton to Klobuchar here. That's what I think. All right, wait.
I think
next thing, we got to go to the next topic.
Yeah, next thing, we're over. Okay. What is the next thing, Greg?
The next thing is you bet, which is your rant. I don't know. I was trying to come up with like I don't know, punny lines for this stuff at the bottom.
You did great, but I still can't land on what it was. So just so everybody understands, Greg and I talk in the morning all week long about the topics that are happening around us, and we land on in our conversations, okay, that's a great topic for this week, and then it makes it to it. I truly do not remember what this one is. So I'm going to go with it because you got to lead me into it, because you remember what I was saying, and it was so great. You were like, oh, that's so great. And I have no recollection. I really don't. It was too early in the morning.
You also had the saying about on the phone where you said the emperor isn't just naked. He has a raging heart.
He's stripped.
He's stripped, and he's going to fuck democracy with it. That's what you said. And I was so mad that this was not recorded that I couldn't even contain myself.
Yes.
I was so mad.
People don't know I'm that salty. So you're outing my saltiness.
Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I said that and you didn't. Anyway, okay. So here's the deal. We were talking about Beto. Okay. Beto O'Rourke went to this bullshit press conference, and where the most like undiverse panel of people that ever existed almost is on this stage. You've got Greg Abbott, one of the most evil people that has ever walked. No, God's green earth.
Don't do it.
I'm not.
Okay.
I thought about it and I just can't say that. You've got the lieutenant governor is the guy who said that grandparents should be willing to sacrifice their lives for the economy.
Oh my God.
You've got him.
Yes.
You've got Ted Cruz in the background. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got this mayor of that town who's just a horse's ass, and all these like, as you said, like extras from Dukes of Hazzard up on the stage, and Beto just walks in and he's, quietly confronting them, and they can't stand it that their space has been invaded.
That's right. Yeah. That's back to that. Their brain just snapped. You could see it snap in real time of like, this is not how it's supposed to happen. We have our script. We have our lane. We do it this way. You don't disrupt that. This is our political event to politicize the thing, and you don't get to come in here and hijack it for your politics. It was like, and how dare you? It was just, you could see their brains just going. I don't doubt that these men felt a surge of adrenaline and their own sort of outrage. But what that really was is like, you're getting caught. That's what it feels like to get caught. That's what it feels like to get called out. This is what it feels like. It's like when the parents come home and the kids have been wreaking havoc everywhere, and they come home and the kids are like, oh shit. They can see this. We were with our buddies. We were all into our game. We were all into the semantics. We were all on board. Oh yeah, us. We do it this way. And oh, now we're gonna feel for the children. And oh, thoughts of another. They have their sort of channels, right? And they mimic one another, and they're into this sort of mimetic contagion of their own horseshit, which is very orchestrated, very contrived, very crafted. A lot of it didn't come from them. It was handed to them by places like the NRA, by wherever this dark money is coming from. Let's be honest.
Russia,
there's think tanks. Yeah, there's think tanks, there's PR firms, there's all these folks. Now, when they hit on the mental health thing, I think this is something you and I were talking about. There's a little grain of something in all of their bullshit that is meaningful, but the way they're doing it, couching it, framing it, using it is to distract, dissuade, gaslight, and basically kick everybody off of the kind of confrontation that's meaningful and purposeful, which is what Beto did. So we can get into all of those, the nuances of all of that stuff. It's not actually that nuanced. And when you understand the propaganda machine and all the pieces and the levers that are in it, and when I say it's machinery, I mean it's real fucking machinery. I mean, you've got servers, you've got algorithms, you've got databases. It's people are the population that they target with their semantics, with their propaganda, with their horseshit is segmented across those by their own demographics, by their every sort of, I always say their sort of fart and wish and whim, because they're putting it all up on Facebook. They're putting it all up. They're telling people how to talk to them or what means something to them. And then these assholes get on stage and say it as if it's their own idea. And they say, oh my God, he reads my mind. He's me. It causes this connection and this fusion with these con men, with these information terrorists, with these arsonists that are the Republican Party leaders now, to where the base believes that there's somehow, they're in this connected tissue with them where only they understand what their own like language and their own lane and their own, it's just this circle, right?
It's
what
like are you looking at? Like a snake eating its own tail. What is that called? The snake eating its tail? Except that if there was no tail and they were just shitting into its own mouth.
That's right. That's what it is. And so Beto showed us how to disrupt that. He showed us how to disrupt that in a way that was very satisfying. It wasn't screaming. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't outrage. It just was a confrontation. And they couldn't escape that. So they had to throw him out. And the feeling that, oh my God, our bullshit it's not going to work. We're not going to be able to run our racket. We're not going to be able to do our thing. Holy shit, this is a disruption to that. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They have no plan for that. They fall apart. It's a house of cards. It is the sort of, all of a sudden, they all are the streakers. It's the emperor. It's not that the emperor has no clothes, and a kid points it out. They took the clothes off themselves. They went streaking like Will Ferrell did in that movie with their dicks hanging out, erect, trying to fuck democracy. That was the line I gave you. That's what this is. So like Timothy Snyder gave us that sort of, that little on tyranny, that little books that I carry around with me. I give it to everybody I can. You have it. It gives the sort of 10 points of things to watch out when you're in the midst of a tyrannical regime change, right? Where it's like, okay, protect your institutions. There's like all these things that we have to be mindful of, protect the press because the press is going to get attacked. I want one of those specifically for American authoritarianism, because we have our own very specific brand of authoritarianism that is happening here. We have a party that is all in with our adversaries. They're all on the same line, whether they're fellow travelers and they don't know it, or whether they've cut some deal we don't know about. It doesn't matter to me. It's the same end result. They're seeking to really dismantle our democracy. So we've got Snyder's 10 things to look out for and to make sure we pay attention to. I think we need something like that for everybody like you and I and everyone in the Twitter sphere, and people just in conversations with their family, and conversations with the congressmen and with our political leaders, to know there's what you say when that horse shit's coming at you, when you're in the middle of their garbage, right? Their propaganda, their con, their show. They're putting on a show. And so I would like that. I don't have the answers for all of this, you guys. I just think there needs to be, it would be wonderful if we had a concentrated group of people that could put their minds to it, could think tank that. The way they got they think tanked up their garbage, their gaslighting, their lines that they say, the way they pivot and slither and slide around and snake around. No one's a better snake than Ted Cruz. That reporter was holding him to account, and if you think America isn't exceptional, blah, blah, blah. He knew how to, where to put the righteousness and where to put now I'm going to be righteous. And now I'm going to talk like a preacher, and I'm going to preach to you. And now I'm going to care for the children. And now I'm going to be Ted Cruz strongman. So we need our own playbook for this crap. So we can just keep going poke, 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 poke. And they end up having to just either throw us out or gun us down. Fine, gun us down, but show who you are. Show who you are. Yeah. All right. That was my rant.
That's a good rant.
Did I do it? Did I recreate it?
I think you did. You actually did.
Okay,
you actually did. The key takeaway is we really do have to create this document, I think, of how to deal with this.
I think so too.
I think that's important. Okay.
A simple checklist. Boom, boom, boom. Do this in this order.
Shout out to I thought I was going to say it's the Omphalos is the snake eating its tail. The Omphalos is the naval center of the world. It's Ouroboros is the snake eating its tail. So shout out to Marie Cast and Georgia Daly, Jim Stewartson. Shout out, thank you for providing. We have such smart people watching this show. I feel like
we do. And we have a comment. We're going to try to read some of you guys' comments if we can get it together. And questions. So keep giving it to us, and Greg will do his best. The producer of
the show, the technician, the engineer is he's drinking on the job.
He's drinking on the job. I'll drink with you. Okay,
it's not good. Okay, so all right, so it's almost time to bring on our guest, which is very exciting. But before we have an ad, before we bring in the guest, well, someday maybe it'll be a real ad, huh? Yeah.
Maybe we would have to let people know about the show a little bit more.
People get the word is getting out. Word's getting out.
Is it getting out? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Could you survive on 70 grand a day? Of course not. Let's face it, in this country, 70 grand a day don't go that far. Not with the freaking inflation. And it's certainly not enough for an organized crime outfit to live on. But to a Jersey wise guy in need, 70 grand a day makes all the difference in the world. Hi. I'm Nunzio Ciccarelli, and I'm asking for your help. My family used to control Essex and Union counties. Now, thanks to the fucking Russians, we can barely make ends meet. You heard that right. These foreigners come here and taking our jobs. So 70 grand a day, it ain't a lot, but we really need to scratch. So call now, 1-800-70-GOOMBA, and give generously. Make the American mob Italian again. And now, back to the show. Okay. I can't get enough of that. I just like hearing myself talk, like, exposing my Jersey roots. Okay, so
be good.
Without further ado, our guest, her book is behind me, Other Side, Big Dirty Money, which is a great book and everybody should read. Jen Taub, welcome.
How are you?
Hey, so I've been listening to the show, and I always have a pad of paper to write stuff down on. And I have 2 words on here. LB, do you know what they are?
No.
Mimetic contagion.
Yeah.
You said that. And so it turns out.
Do you know what that is?
I do, because there's actually a book called Mimetic Contagion.
That's right.
Which you can tell us what it is in a moment, which I have ordered. What's fascinating is you can either get the Kindle, they claim, for $95, or used copy for $6.95. So I went for the used.
There you go. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us, because that was a new concept, although I was an English major. I kind of was trying to guess what it was, but do you want to elaborate? Because I think that's so helpful.
Sure. So it's studied by the book that you're going to get. The man who wrote it is going to go into details of how he landed on what and naming mimetic contagion and what it is. And it comes from this question of, why are we violent? Why are human beings so violent? Where is this coming from? And in studying that and looking at that, which is very appropriate for this week for us to be thinking about, he realized that we, as creatures, we as animals, we mimic one another. We watch what someone's doing and we mimic that. And so when you get into something that is mimetic, this is what the word meme comes from, you guys. It comes from mimetic. So mimetics and semantics, but under this sort of umbrella of this writing, it was just talking about with mimetic. So patterns of behavior, things that we put out there that are our own signs, symbols, patterns, behavioral traits, facial, even, watching people, how they respond, voice tics that they have, but also cultural appropriations that we put out there. So what the GOP does when they say things like, a good guy with a gun is the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun. That didn't exist before Sandy Hook. That came out of the NRA, and it caught on. It caught like wildfire, right? So this idea that when you land in a mimetic that works, especially those that are rooted in violence, it spreads, that human beings repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat it, and that somehow becomes a reality when in fact it's just a meme. It's just something we made up.
Because I love your explanation, because in his book he applies it to artwork, right? And our concept of representation. We talk about representation mattering, but it matters on a lot of levels. We don't have to go there too much, but when you were talking, I was thinking about the ways in which things like an example of mimetic contagion or kind of a discourse would be something like Elizabeth Holmes wearing the black turtleneck, because it signifies something that Steve Jobs does. There's a lot that goes on in unspoken communications, but I like how you describe these kids kind of caught up in, these teenagers caught up in this mimetic contagion. They're doing their thing. They're in this world.
Yeah.
But if they get out of that bubble, if for a moment they're forced to see what they're doing through someone else's eyes, that can change. And I think that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to break.
That's what we're trying to do.
Not participate in that, and not act like it's normal.
And pop people out of it, right? Because when you're in it, it's very disruptive and disturbing to get popped out of it. And for different types of minds, there are people with very, our brains are, first of all, they're very fragile. So this idea, just bringing it back to the topic of the week, this idea that that we can somehow predict or do something, of like what's going to happen to somebody's mind if they snap and become, homicidal, or that there's some, there's some way that we have in our system we can track that. But also there are things we do know that we can track and manipulate, and observe and categorize. And that's actually been weaponized by companies like Cambridge Analytica, which was coming out of of a academic group that studies this very kind of thing. How do you get contagion going? How do you get mimetic? And based on how people interact and engage with those mimetics and with signs and symbols or answer a questionnaire, can you start to understand their brains in a way that you can then push and pull on them? So that's where we got things like the dark triad and all these sort of, you get like a whole discipline of science around manipulating the mind, identifying people based on their different mindsets, and then figuring out how you can push them, even just through something online, into real life action. And that gets very, very dark when you start considering and understanding the people who have these tools, the people that use these tools, where they aim the tools. The NRA used Cambridge Analytica and helped them build their database, help them segment their population, helps them target with their memes, with their advertising, with their propaganda, with their, and helps them get feedback on what's working and not working, and how to keep refining and fine-tuning so you can push your audience individual by individual into a group, because they're all mimicking each other, to where they're so set in a lane, it's just going to be almost impossible to bring them out of that. It is cult. It is the science of cults. It's all that.
But given that we know we're this way, right? It's the line between healthy persuasion and propaganda is kind of the line between organized religions that don't cause too much trouble and aren't too extremist, and cults that are dangerous, right? We can't pretend. Right. We cannot avoid operating inside of these systems, and people who think they're outside of them aren't. Right?
We're social creatures. we're social creatures. We're right. in a society. This is how a society works,
right.
full of
it's
human
a form
beings.
Of language, right? It's like we can't stop just because words are used to create violence or words are used to make laws that are unfair. We can't just go, I'm going to boycott language, right? So it's the same thing. You cannot boycott mimesis. You cannot boycott persuasion and discourse. You can either use it toward values that you think are positive, or you can use it for the dark side or selfish reasons.
Right. You can't dismiss its power, though. And I feel like that's part of what we're up against as well. We'll get to that later on. But we have questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Wait, before we get to the questions.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the book for a second, because it's very good. Everybody, I mean, people that listen to my thing know that I'm a big fan of yours, Jen, but the book is really good. It's called Big Dirty Money. It's a look at white collar crime, and it's very well written and very well researched. And if you haven't read it, buy it and read it. You'll learn stuff. It's important. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. And not just Whistle and Dixie. I mean it. I don't read everything. I read that cover to cover very quickly. It's really good. Okay, really so good. Now it's time to grill her, LB.
Yes, we have questions for you.
Okay.
We do. Okay, so do you want to ask the big question or me? And this is what we'll put our timer on.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things we're worried about with Roe, what seems to be happening with this
Roe versus Wade,
Roe versus Wade being overturned, which it hasn't happened yet. We all think it's coming because of the draft opinion by Alito. Okay.
Right.
Lots of bad things are going to happen, obviously, because of this. But one of the things that happens is that it really does seem to transfer power back from the federal government to the states. And by doing that, like LB, you said before, Greg Abbott says Texas is a sanctuary state for the Second Amendment. We'll get to that later too. But okay. And California and New York are sanctuary states for the women's rights to actually get all the healthcare options, right? Yeah. But at what point do we draw the line? Like, we fought a civil war about this. Is there going to be like the Fugitive Pregnant Rape Victim Act that the Supreme Court, which is all, by the way, on their side, is going to rule on? What does that even mean? So I think, and this is LB's question, but
let me ask it this way then, not to interrupt you, but I really want to ask it a very specific way. Okay. So if the federal government has decided that members of the citizenry do not have the federal protection for their autonomy over their own body, over our physical body, right? That's actually, that there's no federal government that can ensure that gets pushed down to the states, and state by state, the state will decide what your bodily autonomy is. Do we even have a federal government? Like, I know we have a federal government. I get it. We pay our taxes in. There's all kinds of services and blah, blah, blah. But if we're not governed on that level, then I don't understand how we're anything but a collection of states who are temporarily agreeing to send our tax dollars in for a body to sort of decide how tax dollars are spent. I don't see a United States. I don't see a federal government looking at that and going out. Effectively, it feels like that's what's actually happening here. And so that's my question to you.
So I'm going to break it into two parts and say, we did have a United States even when only white landowning men had rights. So in other words, so you say there's no bodily autonomy, but that's for people with uteruses. If you don't have one of those, this doesn't affect you. I'm not saying it's good. So I don't look at it like no one has bodily autonomy. It's just people like us, like women. But let me just say the other part of it, which is we've always, we've kind of stitched together this weird thing with federalism, as you know, where there's like federal law and there's state law. And it's not always the case that the federal law trumps the states. And it's not always the case that when the states want to do something good for their citizens, they can protect them. So let me just flip it around. There are areas where it's been really bad when states want to actually protect their citizens. For example, with like usurious interest rates, right? I might be in a state where I think, and the majority of people here think, that interest shouldn't be above a certain percentage, but that doesn't matter because the way the laws are structured, it's perfectly legal for, a major bank to set up a credit card subsidiary in South Dakota, let's say, and offer credit cards at a much higher rate than my state allows. And the way the laws worked out is they don't really care about the residency of the consumer. They look at the residency of the credit offerer. Things in the run-up financial crisis, this was a huge deal for non-bank lenders who were doing predatory mortgages. Some states tried to stop that. And the OCC at the time wouldn't allow states to protect their citizens. So it's worse than you're even making it sound, because when states want to be more protective of citizens, sometimes they can't, because the powers that be, who finance a lot of people in the government, behind the banking system and so on, they don't necessarily want states to be more protective, right? And in this case, what you're talking about is states that the Constitution used to provide more protection for women, and now it's going back to those states that won't. So it's always been it's stitched together. We still have a federal government, but
I don't think it comes down to the citizenry. So you're describing the United Corporation of America, the United Bankers of America, the United Corporation of America. Well, certainly workers' rights are coming next. That is, we know that's being pushed up right now. There was amicus going on about all of this. So that they're going to rule about labor unions in that way as well, our rights to organize. It's all going to, everything that is about the individual citizen expressing their rights. That's what I'm getting to. Yes, they're going to protect corporations. Yes, they're going to protect banks. They're going to protect, everything. They're going to protect everything but human beings.
I mean, I think we have a federal government. It's just like, it's like who has the levers of it, though.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a question of, are we not a United
States? That's not a democracy then. That's not a democracy.
No.
Because it's not.
It's not.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had this conversation with someone the other day where they're like, well, if the Democrats lose the House or the Senate in 2020, then it's over. I'm like, hey, guys, don't worry. It already is. So let's focus on what we have left. And I'm
laughing because everyone says that.
Because it's true.
Well, no. So true. But come on. Like, if you and I were living in the time of slavery, I'd be lying if I told you we had democracy, but that doesn't mean we stop. We have an idea of democracy, right?
Yeah.
We are backsliding where we are now. And I mean, what I'm thinking about, the reality is the fight is all to save democracy is going to be at the states. And because the states, it turns out, control the federal apparatus too. Where we are, as you know, Senate isn't democratic, period, because of, two people per state not based on population.
Oh yeah, such bullshit.
Presidency, electoral college, not democratic. And then of course the Supreme Court flows from that. And the Senate wanting to do its filibuster flows from all of this. Where is this controlled? Where's the biggest danger in 2024? It's the states saying, under the Constitution, we can just throw out the electors and decide on our own. The only thing I think it's not just Roe versus Wade, and our right to abortion. Everything has to happen at the states. The only way, and I had this great conversation with someone this fall who's like a data, I'm forgetting his name and I can look it up. He's a Princeton professor who's also a data scientist. And, everything is so fragile, but it's all at the states. And so what Roe versus Wade being overturned, if that's what happens, which seems like it will, gives us the opportunity to do what this article by what is her name? Amy Littlefield that I read in the Nation, notes.
Keep going.
Oops.
Keep going. Don't worry.
If we organize at the states, organizing everything at the states is the only way to do anything. Again, even though the federal government isn't going to protect people, if we work at the states, we've got to find ways to get honest people in politics at every level who don't want to ban books, who don't want to push people back into the closet, who want women and others who can get pregnant to have rights. We need people at the state level to be active, and then put in place the kind of federal representatives who represent us all. And remember, whenever I get hopeless about the states, I think about so many states that pass minimum wage laws through referenda, in states where they keep electing, Republicans, right? People know the issues that matter to them. And the more that we can get state involvement, states changing their constitution to create rights to abortion. I mean, the fight is at the states, period. And that's where, I wish we had something where we could each adopt a state. Like, I live in Massachusetts. It could move itself in some positive directions. It's not fully where it needs to be, but I really should adopt a state. I should adopt Texas and make it like where I go and plan and, move.
I'd rather just get rid of it. I'm getting to a fatalistic point with this whole thing.
I call Mississippi. I want Mississippi.
You want to what?
I call Mississippi. I got dibs.
Okay. All right.
If we adopt a state, find friends who are working on the ground there. Say, how can we help you? What can we do to help you?
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
I like it. This is good. Okay, you answered our question.
Yeah, except now my head's about to explode.
I know, it's a lot.
I'm having more tequila now.
Okay, let's have a drink.
Just because I said it's over?
Oh no, everyone says that. I've had so many podcast interviews, and everyone agrees that it's over.
I mean,
even the most hopeful people are like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's over.
Here's the thing that bothers me so much. We're all mortal. I was talking to my kid who said I found out that my one of my kids had the same death phase I did, and the obsession when I was like, you're 9 or 10 years old, you're like, oh my God, I'm really going to die. And then we decided to forget about it. But we should remember that all of us only have, what I have, like 40, 50 more years. What am I going to spend my time doing? Do I want to leave this world? Do I want to, in 40 years, when it's my time to go, do I want to have said what was really, a shithole country back in, 2022, but we're doing so much better now?
Yeah.
You're like, and that seems like a long time, but every day matters. No. But the long horizon matters. We're not going to get to see the mountaintop. We're
not. But we're not. But we have to survive it. So I think that's kind of, I'm kicking us into our next topic. Please stay around. You want to hang in?
Please stay.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just a Diet Coke, so I'm not going to get sleepy.
Okay, great.
LB, though, it's your turn, though. We're going to pivot to you now. Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, so, I do. Greg and I had a woman named Claudia Black on a while back who helps with trauma. And that's her expertise in terms of how to work with trauma, people who experience trauma, and get them back, just literally work a science to where you can get your sympathetic and parasympathetic system back into balance, because, it should be going like this. And when we have a trauma, the sympathetic system just goes crazy and everything, and it's why PTSD and all these other things are kind of coming out of that great imbalance. So I want to keep talking to people about that, because I do believe we are going through the process to getting to what you just discussed, and the hope that actually is there, the hard work that's there. It's incredibly hard work now, because we do have to go from local up, right? We just have to rebuild everything if for anything to have a chance. And this is a generation at least of hard work to get to where we've got some blue sky that we even can see, right? On that way are going to be things like this week. A lot of them, we're going to have a lot of violence. We're going to have a lot of incivility at the very basic level. We're going to have losing rights, having to fight for rights. We're going to have to watch little 11-year-old girls that were raped by their fathers, their pictures of their pregnant bellies, and possibly they might not make it through a childbirth. We're going to have to see rapist families in courts fighting, suing these girls. This is going to happen. This isn't, it may be just a game to the politicians, because they're, again, as we talked about, especially Texas, which is this laboratory for American authoritarianism. That guy those good old boys, and Noel Casler calls them, drenched in bacon fat, right? With their drawls, right? So they're just going with the memetics. They're just thinking, but they haven't thought through what it actually is going to look like, how it's going to resonate, what it's going to land on them. Or they believe that that just their good old boy phrases and their catchwords and their guns, right, and their bullshit is going to be able to keep paving over the horror that we're all going to bear witness to the degree that somehow they'll be safe and they won't lose power and it'll all be okay. Well, that's not going to go that way. It's like the same thing for these billionaires who think that they can build their space rockets and just go explore space because the world is ending. And it's like, yeah, it's not going to work out that way for you either. You can't just hide in your bunker. There's not going to be food for you either. If you're apocalyptic about the planet, it's going to hit you too.
There's no good restaurants on Mars.
I've been there. It's this insanity of these
1-star Yelp review
people and their fantasies. So, how do we walk through that? Like, how do we make it? How do our brains make it, get us there? How do we get there without getting horribly sick and horribly depressed and losing ourselves in the process? And so as Greg and I find stuff, we'll keep bringing it out. We'll just keep, bringing tools that we can. But I do want people to understand what that's like. This week there was the scream, right? Finally, I saw in the discourse folks grabbing onto the scream of those parents and understanding that was something profound. That was something beyond what any of the bullshit or anybody coming with love could stop from happening. Was the scream. And I've had that scream. It's a very specific scream.
Yep.
It comes from losing someone you love and someone who is innocent to a stranger with a gun. I'm sure the violence of gun violence that falls into other categories, from suicide to someone that murdered somebody, that they were in a relationship, domestic violence. I'm sure that all has a scream to it. I only can talk about the scream that happens when someone you love who's innocent is killed with a bullet from a stranger, from someone it's just for living their life. Just for my brother, he was walking home after dinner with his wife and their 2 friends, and in his own neighborhood, So I screamed when I heard that news. It's such a trauma to your brain, because there's nothing in his life that he was doing that could have ever prepared anybody for that. He wasn't a police officer. He wasn't not that that's any better. It's just, it was so, it's like a violence from an alien planet. And you're all of a sudden, your whole world, you're kicked into something else, but everything's the same.
Your life apart. It's like a lightning bolt splitting the world apart.
That bullet hit everybody. That bullet went through all of our hearts and our minds. And so I screamed. My voice COVID changed my voice, but that scream changed my voice. It cemented it. And I screamed for 2 days. I couldn't stop screaming. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know I was screaming. I didn't know where it was coming from. It's just a scream. And that's what's ahead. And it took about, then it stopped. I didn't control it stopping. It stopped. I couldn't talk for like a week. I'm here with a friend of mine who was like, they're texting because I couldn't talk to her. I had no voice. And then it took about 6 months, because this is what trauma does to you. It's about 6 months later, I started hearing the scream. I couldn't sleep because every time I went to close my eyes, I heard the scream. And then I had to remind myself that it was my own scream that I was hearing. That's how disconnected it is. So that's what those family members are going through. I know from talking to gun violence survivors and family members now, unfortunately for the last year, a lot of them, this is it. This is what it is. You'll hear people say this is the club no one wants to be in. Yeah. But guess what? You're all going to be in this club. You're all going to scream like this. There's no way for that not to hit you based on the numbers of guns, the numbers of bullets, the radicalization that's happening, the rage that's happening, the failure to act from our leaders. It's gonna be in everybody's life. And that's just one category. That's just one category of what we're facing as a nation, as a people, that we're all going to have to go through. We're all going to go through this. And so I wanted you guys to hear that as the audience, to understand why the reporters were going, oh my God, we're hearing this screaming, and they were processing it finally. Because I think we're just at that point, maybe, in our shared community and consciousness of everybody getting what the scream is. It's not that these screams haven't been screamed at before. It's almost as if they've been not absorbed. And now the folks bearing witness to it are absorbing what it is. And it is subhuman. It is primal in a way that's ancient, and that you don't have control over it when it's happening. And it is like no other sound you've heard before. So I didn't know if I could even talk about this, getting through this without bursting into tears, because sometimes that happens. And so that's going to happen for people. You're going to see people talking about this, and you're going to see them lose their train of thought, or just tears pouring down, or maybe they'll start screaming again, or they'll get angry, or they'll just sort of disconnect and float away. And this is the trauma. So we do need to start putting things into place to help one another with the trauma. You want to talk mental health? That's the mental health we need. We need the mental health for the services to help with the trauma that is now, at this point, as Greg said at the top of the show, is being willfully inflicted on a nation of innocent people.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing your bravery and being able to talk about this. And I'm so sorry, but I'm glad that you're taking this and making a difference, because there are people who've been through what you have, who are, I'm sure, listening now, and who have not yet. And they will know they can reach out to you, because you're right. It is going to, if it has not affected all of us.
That's right.
He didn't deserve it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did.
Welcome.
The scream is in Shakespeare, I think.
Yeah.
When Lear carries Cordelia's corpse and it just says howl, 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 howl. I think that's supposed to be the scream, right?
That's right.
So this is something ancient and that we've known about for a long time.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I remember when that happens. It's insane that something would happen. It just makes no sense. None of it makes any sense, right? This whole
That's what the scream is. The
scream is parents, and it just makes no sense. You can't compute.
Yeah. You can't compute it.
No.
No. But okay, so that was really deep. I don't have a good pivot for you from that.
All right, we knew
what I know you want to talk about, but Greg has a plan.
I do.
He does have a plan, not necessarily for the screaming, but it is connected.
The screaming can't be helped, but okay. You're going to set the 8 minutes here?
I got it. 8 minutes.
You got the 8 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't take questions. Do we want to take questions or no?
Oh, right. This is actually the time for announcements before we get into the final thing.
We have a liturgy. We have a liturgy, Jen. We figured out, and we don't really.
Big Dirty Money is really good. Go buy it. Yeah.
Yes,
follow Jen on Twitter.
That's the announcement. Follow Jen Taub on Twitter.
What I'm going to talk about is it's way funnier than what she just said. I think it. Okay. Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah. So okay, wait. Yeah. Okay. We're ready?
Yeah.
I had this idea. This just came to me, and I wrote it down so I didn't forget it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I typed it out and I sent it to my friend Moscow Never Sleeps to get his take. Okay. And he was like, I got to get this to lawyers, he said. So this is another reason, Jen, why I wanted to keep you around. Okay, for the end. Texas and Hawaii are the only states in the union that used to be independent entities of themselves. I think I tweeted this once and people were like, no, Vermont was for 2 weeks and 16, whatever. Fuck Vermont. I'm talking about that's an original colony. I'm talking about, seriously though, fuck Vermont, but also Texas and Hawaii were the only two things that were actually their own places, their own sovereign states. In 1845, okay.
Not that long ago, by the way. Not as long ago. You'll go to this, but
let me fast forward to
1845. Yeah.
Okay. Crimea. What happens in Crimea? Putin decides, I would like to take Crimea from Ukraine. And how does he accomplish this? The people in Crimea are like, we want independence. And then he's like, hey, the people in Crimea want to be part of Russia now. And then Crimea declares independence. And then Crimea is annexed by Russia because of the referendum in Crimea, when all of these people with a gun to their head say, great, let us join Russia. We would love that. Okay. The United States did the same thing with Texas in 1845. Texas declares independence from Mexico. Okay. Is its independent place as the Lone Star, whatever the fuck, for like a week and a half. And then there's this long protracted process for the United States to annex, that's the word, Texas. President Tyler, who was he was vice president, elevated to president. This was his main mission, was to incorporate Texas into the Union. And he didn't manage to do it. There's the Tyler-Texas Treaty, which is only signed after Tyler leaves and Polk takes over, which basically the United States annexes Texas, and then later it is admitted into the Union as a state. So my plan is, hey, why don't we just unannex it? This isn't secession. This isn't civil war. This is saying, hey, why don't we just be like, guys, we looked into the treaty. It ain't valid. I'm sorry, but you have to go your separate ways now, because I feel like if we can have an army of lawyers on their side arguing that the will of the people and the votes shouldn't be counted, can't we find an army of lawyers on our side to say that this bullshit treaty from 1845 is somehow null and void? Because here's what happens if Texas suddenly isn't part of the United States. 1, Ted Cruz and Corden, bye-bye. Oh my God, 2 more Senate. We suddenly have an actual majority in the Senate, and we can actually, do some fucking things, right?
Yeah.
That's 1. Texas has 38 electoral votes that just, boop, they're gone. Fuck you, Republicans. Gone forever. Okay. And then the best part, the border. We have to secure the border. We got to secure the border. No, we don't. Texas has to secure the border. Texas now becomes a buffer state between us and the MS-16 gang coming up from Guatemala, right? They're a buffer state. It's actually good for U.S. security to have this buffer state of like armed crazy people between us and whoever's coming in to invade our country. It's actually good from that standpoint.
Can I just?
There's a national security. There's lots of national security pluses in the plus column for getting rid of Texas.
Without looking at the legality of this or the sort of geopolitical interest, I just have one question. What do we do about Austin? Is it going to be like West Berlin?
I was thinking that. I was totally.
Or are you going to airlift Austin like to Northampton, where I am? Because I've heard it's kind of like the Texas Northampton. What do you think?
I think it's going to be like the free city of Danzig, and it'll be its own thing. But
we'll have direct flights in and out.
Yeah, we'll have to fly people over and drop like RU 486 pills in or something. I don't know. It's going to be crazy, but there's going to have to be a period where cool people can leave. Maybe everyone cool in Austin just suddenly is like, we're going to go to Oklahoma City. And then Oklahoma turns blue. I mean, there's lots of ramifications here. And all the dipshits from the rest of the United States can just move to Texas. And then we have the United States of awesomeness and dumb fuckistan, which has its oil derricks and the Dallas fucking Cowboys. We can live without those things. I'm a Giants fan. We can totally live without the Cowboys. That's what
listen, it's a plan at least. At least there's an idea on the table. And I have to say, President Tyler is my great grandfather, maybe 4 grades.
No way. Sure. How did you not reveal this until now?
Well, it's not somebody that you're proud to be like. It's not like I'm running around going, that's my guy. That's my dude.
He was like, but without him, there is no acting, whatever, Chad, what was his name? Chad Wolf. What was he the acting thing of?
No. DNI. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Because Tyler was like, they were like, you're the acting president. He was like, no, I'm the president. Fuck you. He made that happen so that when the vice president becomes the president, they're just the president. They're not the acting president. Very important.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's what my ancestor did.
Okay. So I'm obviously half joking because I like Texas. I think Texas is great. I would love for Texas to actually count all the votes of the people that live in Texas, and that would turn blue because there's more Democrats than Republicans in Texas. They just suppress the vote better because of these people like Greg Abbott. And I'm half joking, but
here's the thing. Here's the thing with this idea. It's even something that gets pursued. Let's pursue it a little bit. Let's pursue it legally. Let's see. Let's push the idea. Because Texas, first of all, the lieutenant governor, my parents lived in Texas for a while. The lieutenant governor in Texas actually has tremendous power, more so than most lieutenant governors. The governor is more of a puppet. I think Abbott has turned that around a little bit, but the lieutenant governor has a lot of power. Texas has been, and this guy that's in there he's a horror show, right? As well as the governor himself. So Texas is a weird state.
And the attorney general is
and the attorney general is a criminal, and they have gerrymandered the crap out of everything. It's very, very, very corrupt. The people in Texas are like, we can't vote. We wish this would be a blue state if we weren't suppressed, if we weren't gerrymandered out to the wazoos. Things would turn around. Maybe Beto can turn stuff around, but the other, look, they believe. At least they did when my parents lived there. Really, which was when Rick Perry
was into a bomb shelter. I get so nervous.
I know it sounds like an air raid siren. That's our alarm. It's when you're there, or when they were there. They were playing. Rick Perry was playing a lot with secession. We should secede, and they would do all this, and people would like, "What are you talking about?" And it was almost like the girlfriend or the boyfriend that's like, "I'm gonna leave you," and to get the other person to say, we really want you to stay. Like, it was like this threat. I don't think they understand the good old boy network there that's corrupted everything, that we're okay with you going. Go. Get out. In fact, we're going to
Elon Musk lives there now.
I know.
Wonderful.
I mean, imagine being able to get rid of that guy. That would be such a plus. So I don't think they've ever conceived or been confronted with the fact that they're actually not wanted.
Yeah.
That we're not desperate to keep you.
So I think you're going to start once again. I'm not going to opine on the legality, but what does the shape of the country look like if you just sort of like boop the Texas out of it? I mean, we should, try out the shape on puzzles. I mean, see how it got to work with it. This is like our whole mimetic contagion. Just start circulating maps.
Just start circulating in the memes. See what happens. See if it catches on.
Yeah. I think it would work. So I don't know, Jen, maybe you have some law students that would like an assignment over the summer for extra credit. Somebody needs to be reading this treaty and see if there's any way out of it. And I read it today and there's no way out of it. But
but listen, hang on. I want to say something. If a Supreme Court justice can reach back to a time before we had a constitution and find a law to justify stripping women of their rights, like Alito did with that Salem witch, whatever the hell he got that thing from 1600, whatever, then we can take a real close look at something from the 1800s and sort of say, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. It's not too far back. It's not that far back. He reached way further back. We can reach back into the 1800s and take a look at that.
We, as if we have a majority on the Supreme Court.
No, just us here in this room.
Oh, us. Yes.
Just us on this podcast.
Yeah. We have a majority on the pod. We do. We have a majority on this program. We do.
We so have the majority. Thank God.
We do.
Thank God. I want to say someone texted me something. You guys could maybe see it. So like back on the mental health issues, because we said we were going to take questions, stuff of like, this idea of that they keep pushing, the Texas keeps, and all the Republicans that are defending the Second Amendment of like, you're going to stop these children, because that's what they are, these children. This 18-year-old was a child, right? These mass shooters typically are children. The one in Buffalo, child. Parkland, child. These are children. They're legally adults, maybe at 18, whatever, but their brains are, come on, guys. These are young adults at best. That we're going to stop they have the mental issues, health issues, so we're going to stop them, but we're creating the mental health issue to begin with. And so is that the goal? Is the goal to create the mental health issues so then we can blame the mental health issues? And there's a strain of truth in that we'll have to attack in another show when we'll get into, Greg, at some point we can get into 4chan and Reddit and Cambridge Analytica and what actually, everyone's like, what's changed, what's different? And it's not just that assault weapon ban lifted. It's that an ecosystem was created. And within that ecosystem was a lot of very targeted, weaponized language from the gaming forums to the Reddit boards to 4chan in particular, to identify certain kinds of mindsets and push them and push them and push them and push them and we all get now that there's a radicalization that's been going on in our nation. We understand that. And I think there's a step now to understand when that actually began and what the tentacles of it were and who was behind, possibly behind pushing this. There's so much of it that is the contagion. It's just like introduce an idea and then watch it spread like wildfire.
Did you watch Q Into the Storm, that documentary?
I watched a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was not as familiar with the whole process until then. So what you're saying really resonates.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's
characters behind a lot of this, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Michael.
Yeah. I forgot. I'm sorry. Moscow Never Sleeps then sent this to me.
Oh, good.
Which is from 2013. This guy Horsey. This was in the LA Times in 2013.
Oh, there it is.
Restore Texas independence. So this is not an original Greg idea, although I did think of it myself. Ted Cruz gets to be president. England becomes new 50th state. Royal family gets a PBS reality show set at Hearst Castle. Perfect. U.S. Congress loses crazy Texas Tea Partiers, gain sensible English conservatives. So, yeah, I don't think we have to go all out. I just think, with Texas, and then we'll be okay. I'm going to circulate the maps, Jen. I think that's a really good idea.
Let's get that out there.
Okay, so again, Big Dirty Money. Please go buy it and read it. You don't even have to read it. I mean, just buy it. Just buy as many copies as you can. I think is
or find it at your library. You can go on with the WorldCat website and find the library near you.
I'm trying to get people to buy it, Jen. Come on now. Seriously though, you should read it because it's really good. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you,
as
Jen.
usual, this was a fantastic comment night. I feel like we're so spoiled that we get these wonderful comment nights. So thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate the really smart comments. And anything else to add, guys, before we sign out here?
No, I'm going to go finish my drink.
Someone asked me, I didn't look at the comments as we were talking. I had it on the private chat thing, but Ponzu's doing fine. He's not bothering me. So that's good.
Okay.
Oh, who's Ponzu? Is this your dog or your cat?
Dog.
It's your dog. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Okay.
As long as Ponzu is okay.
As long as Ponzu is okay. Ponzu is okay. He's going to stay here and not go to Texas. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank God.